I have been demoted at work. Harry came home with a serious expression on his face. Almost spilled the tea was drinking and knew the company's performance had been poor lately, and there were major staff changes due to restructuring. But I never thought this would affect Harry directly. Still, I think it's important to be there for him in difficult times like this. Ash's wife, well, I guess we've just been lucky. Times are tough, but I'm working too, so don't worry. Is Ed in a cheerful tone trying to lighten the mood? My name is Cres. I'm 51 years old. Currently I work full time in an office. I live with my husband Harry, who is 2 years older than my daughter Ruby, who is in her second year of high school. My 73-year-old mother-in-law Abby Bandit always get along, but as I'm away from home for work most of the I don't see her of tons. So I try not to let it bother me too much. I told Ruby that her dad feels bad about the demotion but is strained to act normal around him. However, Harry started to vent his frustrations at home. It is often said that people take out their frustrations on those closest to them, and that is exactly what happened. All his anger was directed at me. The next day during my day off, I was cleaning the hallway when Drew walked by and suddenly said, "You have gained weight since we got married." Right, I was shocked. Well, I am 51 after all. Even gynecology pamphlets say that women tend to gain weight during menopause. I replied, but according to my cummy's health check, I am not overweight. Red didn't seem to care about an explanation. Forget about the health check. Your figure is unattractive. You are just lazy if you are fat. I am ashamed to be seen with your figure like a barrel. He was speechless. How could my husband something so hurtful? Before I could respond, he muttered ugly and locked himself in his room. I stood there and saw what had just happened. I pinched a little fat. But why was he suddenly so cruel? The shock was so great. I forgot I had the mope in my hand. It fell to the floor with a loud noise. From that day on, Harry's attitude towards me became colder and more hostile. To make matters worse, my mother-in-law seemed to have heard our argument that weekend and joined in doubling the pressure on me. One day, as I was walking up the stairs with a laundry basket ready to hang clothes, came down from the second floor. I could tell by the expression on her face that I was about to add more to my already heavy load. She didn't go down the stairs. Instead, she stayed at the top waiting. Then she made comments like, "Oh, how terrible. If only you were not suffocate, we could get through the stairs, but because of your size only one person can get through. I have to wait." When I served fried chicken for dinner, she would say, "Isn't that what's making you fat?" And then she would take the plate away, suggesting that only the three of them, who were not overweight, should eat. My gynecologist had told me that after middle age, you either gain weight or lose it. But my mother-in-law was skinny. She was as thin as a sadry tree. Although her bullying and teasing bothered me, I had learned to put up with it. Their teasing was nothing new, so I was somewhat used to it. What it hurt, though, it was how Harry had been treating me ever since the incident. Stopped talking to me completely. There were no more thank yous. No, it was delicious. Even when I served him breakfast, he would just eat in silence, and then get up without saying a word. He would got to and come from the bathroom without saying anything. Yet we shared the same room, but he would just turn his back on me and play with his smartphone. It felt unbearable to be treated like there was none. I gathered all my courage and asked, "Have I done something to deserve being ignored?" He answered, "Not really, but I just don't want to talk to anyone but human." She continued, "I don't want to be seen as a family with someone fat. If you care, loses some weight." His words shattered me. But gain weight? Common after middle age, and you know that true. I'm doing everything I can. I walk on 2 miles every day to go to work. He was really trying hard to fight the weight gain that comes with age, but I turned his back on me and said coldly, "If you're not seeing results, then it's like you're not trying at all. Don't talk to me anymore." From that point on, he really stopped talking to me. My mother-in-law kept making fun of my weight whenever there was meat, fruit, or rice on the tables. She would ask, "Are you allowed to eat that? Do you realize what you are doing?" Because of this, I ended up eating only salads and vegetables served. Harry just watched all this without saying a word. Moving his chopsticks insolence, I started to think my marriage might be over in my free time. I started packing my belongings. If Gare was going to treat me like I didn't exist, maybe it would be better to disappear. When it old my daughter, I was thinking of moving back to my parents' houses. He said, "Yes, you understand. You've seen how grandma and dad always bother you during meals. It's hard to watch. I'll go with you. Mom, we can live at grandparents' house, and I can still go to high school from there." Now tomorrow is the day when the demotion of Harry I've known for a while will official. I happened right after winter break tonight. Harry came with a smile and said, "Let's go for a drink. I'll just this time, starting tomorrow, I'll start a life without underlings." He wondered if Gar found the situation unbearable. But I've already lost the will to continue with his facade. His forced smile was starting to irritate me during dinner. We said, "Let's go for a night. Cap'll make wine, spriters." This might have been the first time he talked to me since the day after it told me about his demotion. Headed, "Ruby can have some juice and I'll make a wine spritzer for you too." Breasts, then placed the prepared drinks in 3 places on the table. I felt strange why he was being so suddenly nice when Harry turned his back for a moment to look for the remote control for the TV. I sniffed the drink he had made for me. The smell was faint, but unmistakable. I recognized it, because I have used that ingredient in cooking before. I couldn't believe it. How could he even think of making drink this? I couldn't take it anymore. The constant harassment from my mother-in-law, being ignored by my husband, And now this I decided I was going to get my revenge. The spreads of wine was the straw that broke the back, trying to keep my voice calm. As Harry could get the came and vertert and the goat cheese from the fridge is from a local farm and it's delicious. I'm glad we're having this family time, could you bring it? Harry thinking it should at least do that headed over to the fridge while he was gone, and before my mother-in-law and daughter sat down, I quietly switched my drink for the one on the seat to me right. The seat that belonged to Ibra came back with the cheese. Okay, now that we have the snacks ready, I'll call Ruby and Mom, said loudly and loud enough for them to hear. Dinner is ready. The two of them headed to the dining room and took their seats. It looked like a normal din. Nerwa had meatloaf, cornbread, salad, chicken soup, stew, cheese, and of course the wine spritzer. Ruby was drinking juice. Let's eat, said Ruby, breaking the silence. Harry and my mother-in-law stayed silent. It took a sip off the spritzer of wine. Harry had made, noticing that he was watching me closely, smiled and said, yes, it's good. Harry muttered something under his breath, but I ignored him. I ate salad, and then took another sip of the wine spritzer. Suddenly a spurt of red liquid came out of my mother-in-law's mouth, reminding me of Cat's fire breath. Wait, Grandma, what happened? Ruby stood up, surprised as some of the liquid splashed on her. Salad, you choke, are you okay? Ruby quickly grabbed a towel, and went back to help her grandmother, who was wiping her mouth frantically. What is that? Ruby asked, amazed. Grandma, your mouth looks like cadros, Spissy shedded, noticing the red color. My mother-in-law started to panic. Hey, you put it in my drink, she screamed, lunging at me. I calmed her hand and said it wasn't me. Harry made the drink when my mother-in-law noticed. This was the first time she was ignored, and finding out that Harry was the one responsible must have been a big shock. What, she screamed with her lips still covered in the sauce, and then turned to Harry. He was shaking. I leaned towards Harry, placing my hand on the table to apply some pressure. You thought you could hide it in the wine spritzer? Right, I could smell it a little. Because I've used it before. That was drop of hell, right? I demanded. I bought it, had a food fair in Alabama. It's not as famous as demoted. It has a hint of lime that I like for its homemade taste. That hint of lime was what is smelled. Which means Sherry mixed a considerable amount into the drink. My mother-in-law must have not noticed because of the smell of the wine spritzer. Or she thought the lime was just part of the flavor. That's probably why she drank it anyway. This was a malicious joke, extremely vicious. Wait, Dad, that why Ruby, your daughter, had a sock expression? He intended for Gracie to drink it, confessed Jay, my mother-in-law, realizing the drink was meant for me. She tried to push it towards me. There was no way I was going to change to that dangerous drink. Ed quietly keeping my pressure on Harry. Then why on earth did you think of doing something so absurd? He hesitated, but then replied, you were getting chubby and spissy food speeds up metabolisms. I thought I'd do it. Wow, that's pathetic. What an excuse, pitiful. I laughed sarcastically. Did he think that explanation would be acceptable? It was absolutely embarrassing. Under pressure. Jer hesitated and slightly moved back in his chair. I'm not crazy. This is a legitimate reason to support your diet. There, change this with your cup and drink it, moving closer to him. As my husband backed away, Ed, what are you saying? Like the one who made it, you should try to see if it's delicious. Come on. Stood up, took the cup with the rag in front of my mother-in-law, and threw it in front of Java, the Nile, and closer to him. After ignoring me and treating me like I didn't exist for so long, you thought he would drink something you made with his miles. Suddenly that didn't cross your empty mind. It's not too childish, come on. Treat it like the one who made it, you should take responsibility. Islam the table, the sound echoed in the room. Harry, thinking he could escape, stood up from his chair and stepped back. After a tense silence, a calm voice spoke, bellowed at. It turned to the source of the voice. It was Ruby. She started talking as if she was squeezing out the words. Take your frustration on Mom, who supports you more when things don't go well at work, and repeat the cruel treatment. This is like a childish joke. You may not say this to my parents, she started, Ruby with her voice firm but full of emotion. This is too childish and unbearable to see our daughter. Stood up, facing her father with a determined look. It's wrong to be overweight. Mom gets soup early and walks to work and even brings her lunch. It's not like I'm not trying. Then she turned to her grandmother, continuing, and you're okay with that, taking Mommy's dinner away? Like it was fried chicken. What you're doing, Grandma's like something out of high school. It's embarrassing. At those words, she got nervous and started making a confusing excuse. It's not that she stuttered. I'm just worried that Mom might gain even more weight. She seemed desperate to justify her actions, as if she wanted to be seen in a positive way by her granddaughter. She did love Ruby, but this time Ruby was harsh. Compassion is something you feel for the other person. It hurt to see Mommy's dinner taken away, especially when she looked so sad. I wouldn't call that compassion. Stayed silent, unable to respond. Ruby wasn't finished though. She turned back to her father, saying she sucks off the gynecologist every month and she stays active. But despite all that, Dad just ignores her because she has gained some weight. What's wrong with her? He continued his words. The atmosphere he created became more intense. Ignoring her makes the house feel so tense. She can't see that even Colonel Sanders and Aunt Estella from the cookie commercials are a little chubby. There's a term called happy weight, you know. Ruby paused and then added, if Mom gets older and becomes a lovely grandma like Estella, I would love it when I have kids and she's a grandma. Wouldn't it be great to say, Mommy, you've gained some happy weight, and laugh about it? That's my dream. Could you please not ruin it? Her gaze was cold as but her words warmed my heart like warm milk accompanied by cookies. It was a pathetic sight, a father being scolded by his daughter, but Ruby wasn't done. He directed her next words to her father. If you're going to ignore someone for gaining weight due to aging, you should realize that with your hair getting thinnery, you could easily be overlooked yourself. The tension at the dinner table was palpable. Ruby's scathing words brought a chill to the living room, making it feel so cold. Even a banana could freeze after a sigh. Ruby turned to her to new, softer but still serious. That's enough, Mom, it's time toll. Go, it will be better for you. Her words shocked me. Letting it go, that's right. You should let it go. Ruby continued, like I said before, my dream is to see you holding my son, saying you've gained a little weight, happy and laughing for my sake. I want you to be happy, because that's part of my dream, so please let it go, be happy and fulfill my dream. Her words filled my heart with warmth. Everything she said made me so happy that at that moment, I didn't care about being ignored by my husband. Tears of relief and warmth ran down my cheeks as I finally let go of the burdens that had weighed me down for so long. Yes, you are right, I whispered to Ruby, my vision blurred with tears. She patted me on the back and pushed me gently, urging you to put on some weight. Harry stammered, panic rising in his voice. If you had lost weight, I would have been glad. I didn't realize it was a form of relief until Ruby pointed it out. But since you didn't lose weight, I thought I would torment you further. I didn't want this to happen, Ruby firmly intervened. It's sin. Those who don't realize until things get serious, and what bothers them, miss incredibly childish to live without their beloved granddaughter. It must have been unbearable for By in a desperate attempt, she intervened. Hey, Ruby wants to keep living with we, don't you? Your grandmother loves you. Her voice was as soft as petting a cat. Quino answered Ruby coldly. I don't want to breathe the same air as people who act like teenagers anymore. Eby's plea was rejected, leaving the room in a tense silence. Harry, now completely cornered, tried to redeem himself. Okay, I understand. I will take responsibility as the one who did it. He took the glass filled with a mixture of wine and a drop of hell and drank it in one single gulp. Just like Ed has spat a stream of red liquid from his mouth, his lips turned a bright red color like that of a lobster. It took responsibility, right? Ruby murmured in a voice. Ruby unamusedly pulled out her phone and took a picture of both of us with our ridiculous lobster lips. You are both so ridiculous. Come on, she said. She walked out of the living room, and I followed her without looking back. What was left behind was a dinner table splattered with a mixture of sparkling wine, with a drop of hell and two pathetic figures, Harry and Eby, with their embarrassing lobster. Our lips. Ruby and I moved back to my parents' house. When we explained the situation, both my mother and father were furious. They confronted Harry and Beth. They retrieved the divorce papers and made sure the divorce was finalized. My ex-husband Harry hit rock bottom in his career, spending his last years with no significant accomplishment. His habit of ignoring things shouldn't like, even at work, had led to his downfall, which I learned recently. As for my ex-mother-in-law, Eb, who had always been difficult and rarely went out, now was stuck in a two-person home with no life eventually. I got a call from Biffy and Ruby were here. It wouldn't be so monotonous. This is proven by the 18 years we'll live together since Ruby was born. Please come back. I will stop ignoring you, but there was no way I would come back. My mother with here. Ever-present sense of humor, joked, better gain weight while you can. Once you have grandchildren, you will have more physical work to do. I both left today as usual. I was walking to work when my boss drove by and stopped. Do you want a ride? He offered. No thanks, I'm on a diet, I replied with a smile. Just getting, I insisted. I found a new boyfriend. We have both been divorced once, and that's why we understand each other well. While he was driving, headed, being on a diet is fine and all, but it would be a problem if you were late. I have never been late before, I replied, puffing out my cheeks playfully. He looked at me, gently touching my cheek with his finger. Give me the time you saved by getting in the car today for our conversational ways, said the talkative boyfriend.